Hello, everyone. This is Imran Amed, founder and CEO of the Business of Fashion. Welcome to the latest episode of BOF Live. Today, I'm here with the designer Stella, who is joining us from Italy. And we're here to talk about a very important topic, obviously, that we have been discussing at length here on BOF over the last few months. Much of the discussion around the Black Lives Matter movement in fashion has been focused on the conversations in the US and to a certain extent here in the UK, where I'm based. But Stella has been playing a leading role in driving the conversation around Black Lives Matter in Italy. And so we're delighted to have her with us today to help paint a picture about how this conversation, this very important conversation, has a very unique tone and history and context that differentiates it from some of the other countries. So, of course, the core conversation is rooted in the same goals around achieving better racial equity for Black professionals in fashion. But in Italy, there's some specific context and situations that make the conversation there a really important one to consider outside some of the other conversations that we've been having. So I'm delighted to have Stella with us here today. And Stella, before we kind of dive into the topic at hand, I wanted to start with you and your personal background and history. Just for those listeners and viewers who aren't already familiar with your work. So could you just, in the first instance, take a moment to, tell us your personal story? How did you grow up? Where did you grow up? Explain a little bit about your background, and then we can get into a little bit about how you got into the fashion industry.
Okay. Imran, hi, hello. Thank you for having me. So I will tell a bit about my story. And fashion comes for me from two different personal seeds. First, he has begun as a personal necessity, born in Italy of the early 80s and struggling being so diverse from my fellow citizens, has motivated me to find a way to show people not to be afraid of different cultures and color, but instead to see them as opportunities and see them as a chance to grow better and together. I know that it may sound paradoxical, but I don't use fashion with an aesthetic purpose, but as a tool to fight against any cultural segregation. The beauty of fashion has no borders, so you can accept beauty a priori without prejudices. This allows me to talk through fashion without preconceived opinion, just beauty. That's why my work reflects my own métissage and Creole heritage, in which two opposite cultures, first white republic in one side, first Black republic in the other, Italy 80, blend together. So this marriage of opposites creates a new hybrid, which I've always considered during my childhood a total disadvantage. And it took me a long time to change my mind, but thanks to many friends, mentor, role model, and fashion, obviously, which has been my therapy in this case, I've discovered the precious uniqueness of being diverse, conveying a new concept of multiculturalism applied to fashion, which promotes cultural crossover without ever compromising one's own identity. And then there is the second reason. It's the need to put forth and preserve the multiculturalism, which comes from the fact that I've always had two. Actually, my mother comes from Haiti and my father from Italy. I was born in Rome, but I've spent a few years in Haiti. And I was mortified that such a great country was known just for some wrong reason: earthquake, extreme poverty, charity action. Believe me, after immediate emergency cases, help should come in a totally different form in order to build a long-term action. Considering that this population have so many cultural resources, which would allow them to rise up again on their feet without the need of charity action. What they need is someone who decides to believe in their capacity and give them the opportunity to work, putting in place their own skill. This should be to me the power of fashion. This is acknowledgement of fashion's potential as a cultural activity to provide significant opportunities for decent work for men and women around the world. That's why I've created I've founded the Laboratorio delle Nazioni.
So, it's really interesting because I was reading up a bit about you before, and actually you didn't study fashion. You studied political science. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
I don't even know how to draw.
Okay, so how do you go from someone who doesn't know how to draw, who studies political science, to creating a fashion brand?
My will, as I said, was to explain my story, my identity. So a multiculturalism through fashion. So as I said, I use it as a tool. So I put together different those that may seem opposite culture. I beginning with Italy and Haiti, so a white republic, a black republic, and from that day on, also thanks to the help and the support of United Nations, each collection is the result of the construction of a cultural bridge between Italian design and the artisans of a low-income country at each different season, such as I said, Haiti, Burkina Faso, Mali, Pakistan, and others in South America, Africa, and Asia. I go on this country on mission, and after a first period of meeting and research on various indigenous skills, many of which are unfortunately dying out, I start studying together with local artisans how to develop a product or fashion, textile, accessory, combining the host country's traditional craftsmanship with the Italian design and savoir-faire. So it becomes an exchange of know-how which show how cultural heritages, in this case, have a major impact on development and can contribute to reduce a lack of opportunities through that we can call it an international cooperation.
I understand. So this idea of multiculturalism has been kind of woven through your brand from the very beginning. It's part of the kind of essential core of how you started your business. But it strikes me that the issues of race and multiculturalism in Italy, are very different from the way people have these conversations, say, in other countries. Like I grew up in Canada, which is also a very multicultural society, and multiculturalism is like literally embedded into the constitution of the country, right? It's written into the governing principles around which the country is based. And that means that those of us in minority groups who grew up in Canada, we were given a space already from the very beginning when we were in school to understand how those of us who came from different backgrounds were still part of the Canadian multicultural fabric. It was an essential part of the identity of the country. Italy, on the other hand, is different. So can you talk to me a little bit about how you see the notion of multiculturalism in Italy?
I think it may be interesting, since when it comes to racism, Italy can be considered a case study. So it have its own peculiar narrative that doesn't look quite like any other. You have also to think that each Italian family holds within itself a story of migration. So you would be hard-pressed to find a single Italian family in which no one had to migrate to seek survival or fortune elsewhere. Thus, we as Italians have unique insight into this issue. We know and understand the weight and the pain of it. At times, however, it seems that we do everything possible to hide our history, to silence our wounds. But there truly is no reason, I think, to do so, as they are part of us and they can indeed help us to tune into reality that we now view and live from a privileged perspective, because now we have become those who welcome. And sincerely, we often do it well and beyond what we feel capable of. So I often wonder, I often ask myself, who better than us can understand this exhausting journey and help to integrate the new realities of our social fabric. Exactly as we have been integrating in different countries all over the world, we know, as Italians, we know the meaning of discrimination better than many other countries. Just remember some panel in history where they wrote you can hear in this space Black people, Jewish, dogs, and Italians cannot enter. So it's a painful history that we know very well. Nobody has to explain us something about it. And that said, I understand and can rationalize the extreme fatigue of facing this topic, especially when it striped from the reassuring abstractness of geographical distance. We often say here that it's an American problem, it doesn't exist here, and is instead given the heavy concrete weight of indifference, right, in our own house. But that said, it doesn't justify this constant denial. So every time Italy pronounced that wound that we have ignored for far too long, reopen. But if we don't understand that awareness is the first step in solving the problem, this wound will never heal.
Yeah. So it's interesting, you know, in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd by the police in the United States a few months ago, the entire world, which was on pause effectively because of the virus, stopped and took in those images and took in the video of George Floyd being killed in front of everyone's eyes in 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And it led to this kind of, you know, explosion of protest in the streets all over the world. Can you talk to me, you know, given what you've just told us about how in Italy sometimes these issues are hidden and they're not openly discussed? What was the conversation in Italy like around the Black Lives Matter movement when things started really picking up and that movement started going global over the last few months? What were they saying in Italy? What were the people fighting for? And how might you compare that to what was happening elsewhere?
You know, we had a paradoxical reaction. Here in Italy, people greatly support Black Lives Matter US. And we made a lot of talk, a lot of articles about it. It was on our covers of our newspaper every day. But, you know, this is the paradox of racism in Italy. We are the first to stand for other countries, no? But we cannot admit our problem because it's still a taboo. So for me, it's mortifying that they seem to continue to not want to understand that the United States, France, UK, other all have equally hateful histories of racism, but with different characteristics, timelines, and evolution. Each of these countries' racial history is very different from each other, and that of Italy, which has its own roots and development, is the result of our history of both painful immigration and migration, as I say. But it's a shameful when the whiteness of this country is used as a justification for the homogeny of the same country, of some institution or some special field. And as some believe that the lack of diversity in fashion sector is due to the fact that Italy is predominantly white. It's a shame, Imran, that they missed the new multicultural reality. They missed the point of why masses of people from all different backgrounds were taking to the squares in towns and cities from the north of the south and Italy in support of Black Lives Matter. Ranging from every possible type of skin tone, the new Italians are here and they are asking to be seen and respected just like the next person, not more not or less. The beautiful thing about the Black Lives Matter manifestation in Italy is that Italians of every hue were united in their request for human rights for all. White, I have the possibility because I was there. White youth, so I have the possibility to see that white youth were thrilled to listen to their peers who courageously opened their hearts in ways I personally could not have when I was their age. They had the courage to speak openly about a pain that is continuously silenced by society here. So the new Italians were there that day. They were the same ones who made me strongly believe, and I can tell you, I strongly believe for the first time in my life that this time we can do it. We can overcome this problem. This time things will change because we were not segregated by color in that square. We were united. This is the example that fashion should follow as well. I would suggest to major Italian brands to save the significant funds allocated to provide sensitivity training and instead watch and learn from this generation, from those images, from the courageous testimonies of the people who share their own experience. So if we can come out of this situation, we have to be united, and we don't want them to stick us in a special areas, still special area. Let's overcome this together. There really are no other valid alternative. So, outside of palaces of power, in the real country, we live in a multicultural country here in Italy, one of the most beautiful and diverse countries in Europe. So even our extreme beauties is actually due to our mixed heritage. Maybe my white neighbor, won't be visible as me, but in Italy, we are all mixed. So our strength is our mixture, and this truth is evident in every aspect of Italy, from food to architecture, and now finally we hope to fashion.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about fashion, because, over the last 18 to 24 months, as we see some of the, stumbles that some of the brands in fashion have made, you can look back through the list of brands that have made some of these errors, which I know that they're working very hard internally to address, and, they've taken a bunch of actions, but it's quite interesting how so many of those brands were Italian brands. Dolce & Gabbana, Gucci, Prada, and many others have found themselves in these situations where they've been accused of cultural appropriation, they've been accused of racist imagery in their campaigns, or racist products that are offensive to members of their global customer base. And I wonder why, on the one hand, you have this very enlightened young generation that's ready to embrace a kind of new face of Italy, a new perspective on what being Italian actually means. And on the other hand, you have these big, huge companies that have these massive global brands, and they're making these kinds of mistakes. How is it that happens now? What is your diagnosis of the challenges that some of these companies have internally that has resulted in some of these errors that they've made in their choices and decisions?
This really is about how to address a realistic lack of opportunity by setting an equally systemic commitment in consistency and purpose, aim at a direct confrontation to integrate and contaminate Italian associations that have long preached multiculturality, but have rarely applied such concepts beyond the media windows of catwalk in spaces away from the spotlight when no one is watching. So with the same emphasis, they publicly profess unconditional support for our cause and to the image of themselves as our main ally to the press. I think that a portion, even a small portion of this passion and blame should be used to target what is happening in Italy. I know that it's truly incomprehensible that in a field like fashion that prides itself in celebrating progressiveness, creativity, and freedom of expression, injustice and prejudice continue to have a notable grip on the industry at large. So despite the establishment of Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Board, there are sensitivity and decision-making skills that cannot be learned in a workshop alone. So we, as I say, we experience racism paradox in Italy. So while you find all the black squares shared, and you can read shared on Instagram pages of all the main Italian brand, and you can read very good suggestion and passionate advice of my compatriots from the fashion field directed towards certain aspects of the critical situation happening in the United States. Many notable Italian brands have positioned themselves squarely in alignment with the African-American pride and struggle for justice in the form of Black Lives Matter. They've postered a black square, and they've generally pledged to do more, better, and right now. The problem comes when you ask them for the same support to the minority right here, the black minority right here in Italy. At first, usually they don't even understand what you are talking about. So it's something similar to what happened to Black Italians. Normally, it's when they ask you where you're from, and you simply answer the truth, I'm Italian, and people usually, the 99% answer, come on, no, that's not true. Where you really come from? And it's happened a bit the same when we ask the attention of the Italian fashion giants, let's talk them. And we had to explain them something that it's obvious to the rest of the world. And sometimes they start to put forward some excuses and some justification that personally always scare me, because it's when you see that they are building walls and instead you are here in front of them trying to build bridges, no? And I really think that this is about forcing ourselves to make an effort, not for the benefit of, as I say, of the media windows, of catwalks, but for the less visible but much more rewarding realm of equality and ultimately sustainable growth. Because, you know, after Black Lives Matter, mostly if you go and check all the official pages of the major Italian brands, you will see filled with black models. And I'm sure that next Fashion Week will be the same. But and you know, this is the fight that Bethan Artisan, along with Naomi and Ayman, fought and won. So the battle to have more black models on the catwalk. The thing is, it has been our last battle, the last battle that we won. After that, nothing has changed, because behind the scene, you won't find black employees on the fashion industries. And we need to change something also when if it's an industry that nobody will see, even if there are some information that they are not there for the press, but for the real life.
Right. So basically you're saying the image that Italian fashion companies are using to project to the world may be a more diverse, visually diverse image than they were projecting before. But what hasn't changed is the way the companies are working inside and the people who work inside these companies. So if you were sitting down with Mr. Bertelli at Prada or Mr. Rosso at Diesel, or any of the big Italian brands, what would you be advising them to do? What would you say to them if you had the opportunity to sit down with them and give them some advice?
First of all, just try to not talk about us anymore, but start to talk to us. It will make a huge difference. They are all in love about Black culture, but not a lot of them are available to understand that there are some implications before using a culture that cannot be used. So also in order to avoid this kind of let's call them mistakes, we should sit and talk together, starting from common sense and then a little empathy would help. You know, the Camera della Moda put forward a really important document, which has been the manifesto in last year, 2019. Which it was the Diversity and Inclusion Manifesto, in which they stated some important statement like that they would welcome and denounce institutional discrimination. They would facilitate, support, and welcome the demands of oppressed individuals. They would give a platform designed to amplify marginalized people. Well, we are here. So instead of just looking abroad to more glamorous objectives, we could start maybe at home. That's why, along with Edward Buchanan and the support of collectives like Black designers, like In the Black, Made in Africa, and Black Italians, we call upon the president of the Italian Fashion Council and to him and to the 14 major Italian brands as member of its executive. And we made our appeal to the council using mostly their own words. We simply requested the evidence of the commitment made by the D&I manifesto. The subject of models and marketing is one conversation. Employment and hiring is a completely different ballgame. It's clear my brand represents neither a percentage nor a number. 1 out of 113. No, I'm obviously an exception to a long-established rule that many maybe do not wish to see change. That's why we are calling for proof of what the Fashion Council wrote in that manifesto, to advocate for an historic appeal, to bring to the forefront for the first time in our history the paradoxical taboo topic of race in Italy through the question, do Black lives matter in Italian fashion? And also to support Black designers who are still invisible in the business of Italian fashion. This is a demand for a fashion reform and an unprecedented honest dialogue with all major Italian brands, which of course are participating in highly performative gestures of public support regarding issue related to racism in America, while at the same time overlooking what is happening to the Black minority in their own country among its workforce, particularly at the executive and creative leadership levels. But this should not be a question of tokenism, because I'm already an example. I'm the one. Do you understand? In 2021, you know, one of the four major council in the world, international council in the world. This is not even a number, and we don't even want to see us bounded in certain special areas which are historically well known to us. So I don't want to remind some dark pages of our history. It's time to turn the page.
Okay. So let's talk about your story a little bit again, because you say you're an exception, right? Because you're, I think, out of all the brands that are part of the Camera della Moda, yours is the only Black-owned business, right? And, you know, when I reflect back, Stella, on when I first came across your work, it was a big deal. You know, everyone was talking about you. Mr. Armani sponsored one of your shows. You won the Who's on Next award in Italy, which is like one of the most prestigious fashion awards. So the industry, in a way, really got behind you. And, you know, arguably, played a role in really giving you a platform to kind of showcase your very unique perspective on fashion, as you had explained before, with this like really multicultural, cross-cultural approach. So what can we learn from your story that, you know, you who did not come from a traditional fashion background, who did not come to this with any kind of privilege or benefits from being part of a fashion industry before, but you managed to break through? Like, how did you do that? And what could we learn? What could the Italian fashion industry and all of us more generally learn from how you've managed to break through, so that there can be other examples like you in the future?
You should be a bit stubborn, like I've been, and also really lucky, because it never, nothing of what happened to me have been possible without the help of big, generous giants of Italian fashion. So without the help of Mrs. Sozzani, Mr. Armani, Mrs. Venturini Fendi, Mrs. Gianfelice, and also in this case, British Mrs. Menkes. And they all helped me a lot, and they trust me. They trust me. It's incredible what happened to me. I've started applying to the context, the USA Next context, and I applied for the first time, and they rejected me. 1 year later, I applied the second time. They rejected me one more time, and then the third time, Mrs. Gianfelice told me, I understand that you're used to be rejected, so you will keep trying until the door will open. But next time, trying to bring your own story. That's the very moment that I decided to talk about multiculturalism through fashion. So it has been thanks to the help of this Italian giant. So we are able to make a change. We are able to open our door. That's why it's painful to me when we stand all over the world an image of Italy, which is racist or make discrimination, because it's not the entire nation. We are not like that. Some may do errors that I hope they won't do in future, and I strongly believe they won't. And this is not the new image of Italy. The new image of Italy is completely different. It's full of generous people who are willing to help the new generation of Italian of any skin color. Because, you know, we are not asking for quotas. It's not about, I don't want that you hire me because I'm Black, but you can't not hire me for the same reason. So it's about meritocracy, which cannot be subordinated to a color, never. So let's, we need more visionaries as the one that helped me at the beginning. We need some more pioneers. And, you know, our country is made of strong roots on the history, on the past, and big wings. In this moment, we just see the roots of the country, you know, the history of the country, our strong past. But now we need to open our wings and to show the world how we are able to fly, because we even learn the word, we teach the word how to fly, also in fashion, with our giants. Sorry if I'm a bit nationalist in this case. You know, in Italy right now we don't use nationalist words, but there is a more fashion term for the same word, which is a sovereignism. Well, now there are sovereignism in Italy. And so we have a tradition, as I said, of pioneer. We should be bold enough to keep working in this direction. Anyway, willingly or unwillingly, this reality is here. It won't change. It will only improve. So I hope that you'll see the next Valentino with the dark skin, or the next Gucci with the almond-shaped eyes. This is the new Italy. So don't stop just thinking about that. Made in Italy is made of, it's a color. Made in Italy is not a color. Made in Italy is not white. even if, because as I said, we are not a white country, we are a mixed race country. So it's time to be proud of our mixed roots and to show them to the world. And I'm sure that we are able to do it. We already did it, so we are able to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, the point that you raise about made in Italy is a particularly important one. And I'd like to spend some time discussing that because, of course, when you think about all of the big fashion centers in the world, Milan and London and New York and Paris, the advantage that Italy has is this history of artisanship, of craftsmanship, of manufacturing. There's like incredible, and anyone who's gone into any of those Italian factories knows that what happens in these factories is it's kind of like fashion magic. You know, it's all of this amazing skills and craftsmanship that, you know, are the reason that Italy has such an important role to play in global fashion. So much of what's produced in the luxury fashion industry is made in Italy. But I think what people don't know is the people making many of these products are not just white people. So can you talk about that? Paint for us the picture of the factories in Italy and how they represent this multicultural society that you're talking about.
As you maybe all know, Italy is now, as you maybe heard about news and everything, is a border country. So it's a country of frontier. It means that, as I said, we have a story of migration. We have a migratory flow, and also you will see in our factory many people working there of many different cultural background. So the Made in Italy already is not white. It's just about start to promote also this aspect. Okay, so also because, you know, we have some precious elements, as you said, we have artisanship, and these are treasures. This is our cultural heritage, and if we don't start to also teach these skills or this capacity to the new generation, which is not composed of a pure race, but of a mixed race, all this treasure will disappear. So I think that we should pass a new message, a new image of Italy, which will be, I'm sure, will be stronger. I think that there are some people who want to keep this old idea of Italy because thinking that it's the strength of our industry. It's not. The world is changing. We are not in the 80s. We are not in the 90s. The world is changing. So we are ready to see all the different background of the people who are working in Italian fashion. It's changing. It's different. As you said, it's an historical moment because sometimes it's hard to make people aware of the change, and not everybody is ready, you know, because we are this nostalgic idea, this romantic idea of the past, but this past will die if we don't make it stronger with the new blood, with the new generation, with the new colors and culture that are here, and these cultures are here to stay.
Yeah. So Stella, you mentioned earlier that you've been having this exchange with the Camera della Moda, and in the press in recent weeks, we've been talking and hearing about some of the dialogue going back and forth between you and Mr. Capazza, who's the head of the Camera della Moda, and some of the other big figures. Bring us up to speed now on what's going on in your activism and your fight to make this conversation, as you said, less taboo, more open, and focused on making the changes to systemic issues which are preventing the progress that you are, advocating for. What's going on with the Camera della Moda now, and how do you think we can take things forward to really address these systemic issues?
I'm really happy today, and I'm very pleased to share with you and with the audience the wonder after some months with some misunderstanding and some small issues that came between us and the President Capaza yesterday. He sent us a very beautiful letter. And the wonderful news is that a special unit, a working group, will be created. So for the first time, we will have a Black Lives Matter in Italian fashion unit in the Italian Fashion Council. And believe me, I'm extremely happy that with this decision, first because maybe we can start to transform this question, do Black Lives Matter in Italian fashion, into a statement. So Black Lives Matter in Italian fashion. And my country is providing strong signs of presence as well as the desire for true change based on the largest civil rights movement in the history and the responsibilities towards minority that this movement involves. So I'm proud that Italy, and particularly the fashion sector, would not lag behind on the subject. Instead, it will listen and learn. Perhaps it will stumble along the way, yet it will do everything in its power to change on an unsustainable, something that was unsustainable status quo. So we will do, it will do its part to make different with real action. Therefore, I'm certain that Italian fashion will soon, very soon, reflect its inherent multiculturalism in both comprehension and structure, not simply on catwalks, without further excuses or delay, and without gradualism, which is important because sometimes it's a bit an Italian attitude. We will do it, but you never know when. So it's I know I'm aware that it's a challenge without precedent, and it makes me think about a Tim Blanc's article I've really appreciated just after the lockdown, where he focuses on the need of talking openly to each other in fashion. No? Something that may seem so simple, but still so new, since fashion has traditionally been an industry of secret, and the virus with the BLM movement highlighted the nonsense behind this behavior. And despite great advertising campaign and public statement about the most fashionable terms of the 21st century, sustainability and inclusion, everything was unsustainable and exclusive. So I think that it's time to tell the truth and at least to try avoid the same mistakes of the past.
So what happened, Stella? Because why did it take so long? And why all of a sudden do you think the Camera della Moda has, opened up this opportunity for you to create this unit and for you to play a significant role in the kind of exploration and in addressing this issue?
I think that also the international interest in this matter played a huge role. Actually, I think that as I said, we are one of the four most important major fashion council and major fashion week in the world. So we know that in the next fashion week, a lot of attention will be on how Italy will respond to this matter. And I think that the will of the president has been to give a strong signal, which is really important in this moment. Italy playing such a huge role in fashion worldwide, it can't hide itself behind some excuses or some justification anymore. So I think it's a great step. It's a really great step. It's the beginning of something that will change. It has never been addressed from the camera, that maybe we'll start to admit for the first time that yes, in Italy we have a problem about racism. It doesn't mean it will last. It just means that we have to be aware, at least to solve it. So we have to start admitting, and then we will surely. I'm pretty confident on it. I know my country. I know my people, and I'm pretty confident that together, I don't know how they will solve it elsewhere in other countries, but Italy needs this unity. We need to solve it together.
Well, Stella, I want to congratulate you and acknowledge and credit you for the work that you've done, because I don't think this would have happened without you. And it really does take pioneers and people who are brave enough to stick their neck out, as you've done over the past few years, and more recently in the past few months since this conversation has broken out into the open. So I really don't think it could have happened without you. And I just want to thank you and congratulate you, because that is a massive step forward. I think we also have to acknowledge that there's still a lot of work to do. And given some of the conversations that we're still having in the industry, there's still, even basic understanding about inclusion that, we still need to have as an industry. But, with people like you driving ahead and, shaping and forcing the conversation out into the open, I think you're right. I think we have a really good chance of kind of making real actionable change that has a long lasting effect. So thank you for that.
Thank you for to give all this attention to this matter, and I hope that your help will follow the following steps that among what will be the think tank. The first table that I demanded to be open door, because it's important that people, customer makes the difference, also participate in this historical debate, which is aimed not at drafting a paper, but really at discussing a fashion reform, setting actionable rules to be adopted by the Fashion Council from day one. So the think tank is therefore intended to be an opportunity for self-regulation, which is important, of the industry, by directly engaging association, collectives, government. We know Italian government is really supportive in this case, and social activists, and Italian gatekeeper of the global fashion system. I focus on the open doors detail because it will, as I said, it will be an historical encounter in our fashion. And I think that people that may be interested, customers, since they are playing a huge role in this evolution, must have access to this important step of Italian fashion. So we should not miss the opportunity to lead by example, as we already do in more trivial aesthetic matters, starting by listening, getting to know, and eventually addressing the local discrimination in our houses with a view to help others with theirs.
Okay. Well, Stella, we have a question that I'd love to call upon. Alicia Ingram has sent through a question. So we're just going to bring Alicia onto the screen so she can ask her question.
Hi.
Hi, Alicia.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Okay, so what's your interest in the Black Lives Matter movement in Italy, and what's your question for Stella today?
So I am currently in the Masters of Fashion, Business of Fashion, at Rutgers University here. So I have a lot of interest in fashion, obviously. And I actually studied Italian in undergrad. So I've always had like an interest in Italian culture. And I saw this in my email and I was like, oh, I have to go to this webinar to hear about this. And of course, you know, being in the United States, Black Lives Matter is you know, the talk of the town, the lay of the land. So I wanted to hear how that has manifested overseas.
Okay, and your question for Stella today?
So my question is actually with regards to kind of your personal journey, Stella, and how you've navigated the industry, and specific to something that you have on your About Me page, where you said clothes can speak louder and in a more incisive manner than many words, sometimes managing to ignite cultural fabric. And I really like that idea. And I was just more so curious how you've managed to uphold these ideals while also sustaining your business, because I would imagine there's a lot of resistance in that narrative of pushing the multiculturalism. So just curious, like, what have you done to maintain that balance to make your business successful and also make these critical statements of the industry?
You know, nobody teach me. I something like invent this way to work and this kind of business in true fashion. For me, as I said, it was a personal need. So that's why when I said the clothes can speak louder than words, because when I put it on the catwalk for the first time, my father's striped shirt and this wax, this batik fabrics, which for me at the moment were representing the black root of Haiti. It was for me it was important to give the message that you can see that it's beautiful. So if it can work in fashion, it can work in real life. So it was just an example to how put it to culture on the same level. It can give a good result. So it's just I'm talking about me, so I'm a good result maybe of two opposite cultures. And but what is sure is that fashion is a too powerful tool. Mm-hmm. It has no sense for me. Maybe because I don't have this academic part or I didn't study fashion. But for me, it has no sense just to do some beautiful clothes. There are some main industry that make new collection every week. So we are having in this moment a kind of bulimic approach with fashion, which is insane to me. But instead using this power, and in this case, power should mean responsibility. No, you have the capacity. I'm not talking about influence the people, millions of people in the world, because when they say next time you will wear red with white dots, you will wear red with white dots, and no matter if it doesn't fit you, no matter if it's not your color, you will do it. So they really have, it's obvious that they have huge influence on people. Mm-hmm. We can't use this influence just to talk about some superficial things. So we can lead by example. We can lead using their powers. That to me means using their responsibility and not talking about beautiful clothes. We obviously all want beautiful clothes. That's how we work, and that's fortunately my work too. But it's important also to use this tool in another way, at least to me.
Okay. Thank you, Alicia, for your question.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Bye. So Stella, I just want to conclude by thanking you again for your time. You asked before if BOF will continue to follow this story. I give you my commitment that we certainly will. And we're obviously here to support you in any way we can to push forward this conversation. So thanks again for joining us today for BOF Live. I'm Imran Amed, founder and CEO of the Business of Fashion. If you want to follow on for the next upcoming events on BOF Live, you can check out businessoffashion.com/events. Thank you again, Stella. Have a lovely day.
Bye. Thank you, Imran, and all the BOF team.